What's going on, people? Myke C-Town here with our Dead Hip Hop Solo album review, and today I'm talking about the new album from P.O.S. entitled Chill Dummy. This is P.O.S.'s fifth album, and it's so interesting to see the changes that he's made since he came onto the scene 14 years ago with Ipecac. And even without knowing anything about him, I feel like it was obvious that he was a punk kid who was rapping. Like, the punk edge was clear in his music without making it too kitschy. And with 2012's We Don't Even Live Here, I feel like the obvious kind of punk rap sound was pulled back a bit in exchange for a different type of production than what we're used to from P.O.S. So moving into this album, I was actually curious to see what he would come up with. I actually thought it was going to be a more guitar-driven album, a much more aggressive album. And the funny thing is, this is something that a lot of P.O.S. fans thought, even though I don't think P.O.S. gave us any kind of indication that this was going to be the case. So I don't know where this idea came from, but what we got with Chill Dummy was something I don't think anyone really expected. The overall feeling of the album was a lot more passive than anyone predicted, at least sonically it was. The production isn't loud or obnoxious. It has mid-tempo drums, some really nice synth work, some live bass work, and it does have guitars, but not the loud, distorted guitars that we expected on this album. What we get here is a fresh and new P.O.S. album in every single way. It starts off with Born a Snake, which is a noisy jam that's definitely more reminiscent of his previous work, but then the album starts to take you on a different path. We get to Wearing a Bear, and that's a more upbeat and kind of bouncy style in the production, an active drum sound, some lively synth work, and of course, you got some great lyrics. Hashtag Black Lives, some of y'all indifferent, some of y'all don't give a shit, some of y'all don't fuck with it. Some of y'all thought racism was over because the president was black. I also like how towards the end of the song he totally fucks up the lyrics, but he decides to leave it in there, and I feel like he's one of the only rappers who does this. He's done this more than once, and it definitely adds a fun element to the music. Bully was a standout track for me. I really like the beat. It's really disjointed, some hard but still clean drums, and it features a rapper that I'm not familiar with, someone named Monty. I'd never heard of him before this, but I feel like he worked really well with P.O.S. on this song. I pray that I fall off when the devil starts singing gospel, screaming fuck everybody like prostitution is logical. Peace/Ruins. This song to me is all about flow. The beat is a really mellow one with some nice airy sounds floating around in the background, some really cool glitchy drums, and P.O.S. comes in and flows effortlessly over this beat. And it also features a rapper named Dynell Rollin, who prior to this I'd never heard of, but he sounded great on this beat as well. A lot of passion in his words here. Then when you think the song is over, Bus Driver shows up and does what he always does, a really unorthodox flow with some esoteric lines that only he could come up with. I got a couple black geniuses in a bullet train bumping them big words shooting out the wood grain. Thieves/Kings was a really dope statement on life and how your perception of things going on around you can affect how you see life. We could live like thieves, we could live like kings, they could be the same thing. Yeah, they're exactly the same thing. He's basically making a statement on how people can choose to look at the life of a king and the life of a thief in completely different lights. But as we know of kings or leaders, we have leaders that have no problem blending that line. These kings are thieves, and they have no qualms about it. And the thing that's interesting about this is it doesn't have to apply directly to the obvious, which would be our political system. This could count towards anyone in our lives, really. And what came to mind here for me is bosses, and I'm thinking that's what this song is referencing. These people, they all steal pieces of us that we can't get back. Our time, our attention, our emotions. The next part is also really interesting. We could work till our hands don't work, till our backs don't work, till our head don't hurt, because we paid up, or we could sit back. We can work forever to benefit the ones stealing our lives away, or we can get fed up and say fuck it and do what we want. Which is the best way to say fuck you to those who are content with stealing from us. And the part about Andre Duran was especially moving. If you're unfamiliar with him, he's a visual artist from Minneapolis who died way too early, but he's done videos for Bon Iver, for The Pines, Mason Jennings, and he's responsible for the Final Boss video by Doomtree, which to me is the best video to ever come from that entire crew. And he didn't bother waiting for bosses to steal his time away. He did things on his own terms, and he created art that was unconventional, that was esoteric and important to his city. Risk that, fear that, whatever you choose. Take that risk, face your fears, choose your destiny. His life offered up an example of another option for us outside of simply living for other people. We can live like thieves, we can live like kings. They can be the same thing. They are. Either way, you die. So basically what he's saying here is do what makes you happy. Don't live to benefit someone else that doesn't give a shit about you. Sleep Drone Superposition. This was the perfect closing track for this album and easily my favorite song on this album. It also features guest verses from Hard R, who is P.O.S.'s son Jake, Alan Kingdom, and it has a fantastic verse from Astronautilus. It also features a hook from Kathleen Hanna of Bikini Kill and La Tigra and the Julie Ruin, which was a really nice surprise here. But this whole song is riddled with amazing lyrics, but P.O.S. was absolutely incredible on this track. Personal lines about self-confidence as an artist, his bout with kidney failure, social unrest. But this line took the cake. And I don't show up, I'm trash talk, I'm fuck peace. I'm Chris Dorner, I'm Doberman dirty off leash. I'm Myke Brown, I'm Eric Garner, I can't breathe. We face down, our teeth are touching the concrete. They're curb stomping us, wearing a crown in our streets. They're curb stomping us, wearing a crown in our streets. In our streets. Really think about that line. Shit like this is so simple, but its simplicity, it still resonates in a very complex way. The people in power abusing us when realistically, the power belongs to the people. We own the streets, but we're unable to protect ourselves while walking down them. It's just a great line. And Astronautilus always has an amazing way with words to me. I want your job to feel like torture till you burn the building down. I want to raise a fucking family out the ashes of this town. Overall, this is a great album that was definitely a slow burn. You know, I have to say on first and second listen, I didn't care for it very much. But as I've said many times, that it can take a few listens before an album really hits me. And this is why people like me aren't smart enough to do quick reviews. My mind takes time to process. And I'm glad I waited because now I think this album is fantastic. It's certainly not my favorite P.O.S. album, but when you look at it in comparison to his last project, it's a lot more cohesive and it's a lot more focused. And as much as I loved We Don't Even Live Here, it's a bit chaotic sonically. You know, I don't feel like you have that issue with this album. It keeps a very consistent tone without the threat of being samey. Unlike his past works, it's not an album of anger or so much criticism, you know what I mean? Which is what so many of us expected during this fucked up time that we're in. But instead, it's simply an album about surviving and doing what we have to do to prosper. And messages like that can be just as important and revolutionary in dark times, just as much as the calls to riot. So, yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this album. Leave some comments in the comment section down there. And for those of you that are wondering, yes, my Out of My Element review will be up within the next few days. So don't bother flooding the comment section with that. Let's just talk about this motherfucking album. Yes, and as usual, thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you. Please don't die, and I'll see you guys next time. All right? Peace!